any kind of dissonance when you're designing a game means that your intended message and what you actually end up communicating aren't the same. And that's what we're going to explore through example for the rest of this talk. And I want to make it clear that this doesn't mean that what you're about to see are in any way bad games. It means they have a design flaw from a philosophical perspective that creates some unintended messages or some intended ones in the way that it works. And the first one I want to focus on is the third Bioshock game, Bioshock Infinite. And the game's creators sought to make very strong statements about racism, sexism, and religious intolerance in America. Instead, they presented a parade of stereotypes in a disjointed mess. You've got the angry, violent black woman with the blood smeared on her face killing a white man. You've got the Asian arms dealer. You've got offensive, you can't really see that. It says the Battle of Wounded Knee, but they created this whole theme park with the typical like Mohawk stereotypes, even though they were Sioux. And then the weirdest thing in the game was these weird yarmulke wearing vending machines that were smashed and the word "Heeb" was scrawled over them. And the game doesn't explain this. We have no idea why these images exist. So what we've got here is meaning sent to the back of the bus by a focus on shooting things zooming around on skyhooks and shooting robots that look like George Washington. And you know, if you're a member of any of these affected groups, you feel displaced because the game doesn't represent you, and the way the game is shown is critical to why that's a problem. The protagonist of this game is a white man, which is, you know, represented by a pair of hands and a grumpy voice. And the problem is this guy creates and solves all the problems of the various minorities in the game. But while he's doing that, he determines that the desperate actions of underclasses are morally equivalent to the motivations of their oppressors. Problem is, Bioshock Infinite uses a type of gameplay known as first person. Usually when you have a first person view like this, the game's encouraging you to believe that you're the hero. In this case, the grumpy white dude. The problem is that he was talking all the time, and so every tired bit of privilege that came out of his mouth really annoyed me because it's like some asshole had taken over my powers of speech. You know, it created an experience that was a guided tour, not an interactive experience. And so if you want to make your protagonist an asshole, that's valid, but use third-person gameplay. Because then you're not putting words in your player's mouth. The thing is about Bioshock Infinite is it's got deeper dissonance than that. We've got embodiments of rationalism in a game with romantic art direction, and you know, that's at odds. The problem is these characters are so darn likable that I was pulled into their perspective. And so the game sort of created this idea of, ooh, shiny, now feel nothing. So I've got this, which makes me want to look, feel, touch, do all these big things. Then I've got these two very likable ginger kids telling me to be apart from it all. And then I've got some asshole talking in my ear telling me what to think. Now, the brain feels faster than it can think. So when you've got all this gobbledygook, the emotional response is the one that gets primacy. And my emotional response was I wanted to punch everyone in the face. And so that's what happens when a game has a high level of dissonance. Now let's look at one that has very, very little, and we're going to go back to Assassin's Creed here.